Hello and welcome to this session here at Stoneridge Connect. My name is Mackenzie Romick. I'm a senior BI developer here at Stoneridge, and all of my time, 90% of the time, is spent inside Microsoft's reporting platform, Power BI. I help turn all of your data and all of your data points into those pretty pictures to help drive decisions for you and the rest of your team. With Power BI, most of my time is spent on the Business Central side of things. That being said, today we're going to focus on Business Central and Power BI and what really awesome financial reporting options you can create inside of Power BI from your BC data. Welcome to the session, Power BI for BC, financial reporting that drives decisions. Now, before we get into the hands-on part of this session today, I want to show you guys some really cool things we have pre-built inside of Power BI from Business Central. As you can see on my screen here, I have what we here at Stoneridge call our Business Central Finance Report Packs. This is a pre-built report that has 13 pages in it that looks at your financial data in various ways. Today, we're going to look at one of those pages, and then we're going to quickly build a much smaller version of it so you can see how we build this, where we're getting our data from, what it looks like to build a financial report from the ground up. So as you can see, we have three different kind of categories here for our report back. We have our income statement pages, our balance sheet pages, and then what we call our other reports, as well as some analysis pages sprinkled in. I'm going to click on our income statement summary page and just show you a high-level view of what we are going to do. So a lot of times when I demo this report pack or I demo reports in general, people who don't have development experience tend to get really nervous about doing their own build because they feel like it's out of their hands. It's something that they're not going to be able to pick up very easily, that they're always going to have to rely on developers like myself or others to build these reports for them. And that's just not true. Power BI was built with the purpose of giving developers like myself the ability to explore and go deep and do all of the hard deep diving on things, but it was also built for someone who is a C-suite level person or just a regular analyst that just wants to get high level data points from their data without having to know how to code or how to make data models or relationships or all those high level things that people tend to get a little stressed out about when building these reports. The whole point of today is I want to be able to break this down very simply and help recreate a simpler version of this income statement we have here for you to take home, and then you can build your own and help build that confidence that it is not this really super scary high level thing. It's very simple and you can do it as well. So what we're looking at is our income statement summary. What I want to point out first is this visual right here in the middle. This is a matrix. So what a matrix is, it's a hierarchy of data points. So what we have here is going to be our revenue, our cost of sales, operating expenses, whatever this is going to look like this is going to look different for every company. But with our demo here, this is what ours looks like. And then you can drill up and drill down. So if I were to drill down into revenue, it's going to give me all of my GL account numbers with their GL names and then their coordinating amounts, right? And then we can drill through this and we can do it at a higher level where we're looking at all of them opened up, and then we can drill it back up. So we're only looking at the high level category or subcategories. When we build this in a minute, we're going to build it from a category, subcategory, and then GL account level. So that will be our hierarchy. Another thing I want to point out here is we have these two big columns right here, right? We have our period metrics and our year-to-date metrics. Right now, they look the exact same, and they look the exact same because we're looking at the entire year of 2025. We're not looking at a specific period of 2025. But you'll notice if I go over to my little month filter, and I'll filter this to Q2, right? So April, May, June. Now you'll notice that our period metrics are only looking at those 3 months, but our year-to-date metrics are looking at everything from the last selected month all the way to the beginning of the year. So in this case, June is our last selected month. So this is looking at everything from January 2025 to June of 2025. So that's why all of these metrics right here are a lot bigger and all of these metrics here are a lot smaller. Q2 versus the entire year. The other thing I want to show you is in our matrix here, we have our current period, our same period last year, our variance, year to date, last year to date, and then variance there. So all of these are measures. These aren't just a drag and drop. They are a little bit of coding, if you will, but it is not coding at a high level. It's coding that if you can build a formula in Excel, a very simple sum, a very simple same period last year formula, you'll be able to build this, and we'll go through that together as well. But you're going to notice that this is going to take, so the same, every time period, that's going to be based on that filter, right? So this is looking at Q2 of 2024 in that amount versus Q2 of 2025 with that amount. The difference here is this is looking year to date. So this is more this side. So this is going to give us year to date of 2025 versus year to date Q from June to January of 2024. So it just gives us a high level view of what we're looking at, what we're looking for, and then we can compare really quickly. One of the things I love about these cards over here is that they're already conditionally formatted for us. So we can tell, okay, this is where we are at this year. This is where we were at this time the prior year. It's green, we're looking good. However, if we look at our Q2 markers, we can say this is where we're at this year. This is where we are at prior year. Oh, it's this orangey red color. We got to pick it up this year. Right? So it just gives us a really quick view to help us drive decision making. Now let's make our own. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen really quick. I'm going to pull up my demo report and then we'll get going. So let me share my screen again. This is what we're looking at. Awesome. Okay, so you're going to see a blank screen here, right? And that's exactly what we should be looking at. So this is where we're going to start. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to pull some data in, right? So to do that, we're going to go over here to get data. We're going to go into more, and then I'm just going to type in business. There we go. And we want to connect to this top one. We want to connect to the web version, right? And then we'll hit connect, and then a wizard's going to pop up, and it's going to take us to all of our different environments and what we should be looking for, right? So I'm not going to run through all of this for lack of time, but what you'll do is you're always going to, depending on what you're trying to build, but in this case, we would go to production, and then we would select our sourcing. So when you're connecting into Business Central this way, there's 3 different sources. You have your advanced APIs, your standard APIs, and your web services. Don't connect to your web services. They break all the time. They're not managed very well in the back end. They're easily changed. You're going to run into a lot of issues, especially with the amount of data you're trying to pull in as well. Stick to the standard APIs or the advanced APIs. Advanced APIs are always my recommendation because we have the ability to change those and manipulate those, add tables, take tables away, add some filters, things like that. But the data is directly connected into Business Central, so we're not making any of those big changes, or nobody can really go in and do anything crazy to it like you can with web services. Standard APIs are fine as well. Those are going to be managed more by Microsoft, so we don't really have the ability to make any of those changes, but they're still better protected and a better connection than your web services. You'll select your API, and then you'll select the tables. The tables that we need today are our chart of accounts, our GL entries, and then a dim date table. A lot of companies already have a dim date table built into their environment, you'll just pull that in. If you don't have a dim date table, it's a very simple way that you can just use DAX to create a date table for you. And if you don't have that, we can provide that for you very simply. All right, so then you'll select your tables and then you'll load them in, right? I have mine preloaded right here just so we can get going a lot quicker. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to build that matrix that we looked at, right? But before we do that, we have to make these tables talk to one another. So to do that, we're going to go over to our modeling tab right here, and we'll notice that we have our 3 tables, but nothing really relating them, right? And sometimes when you pull tables in, they'll automatically be related. Sometimes they're not. So we're going to work under the assumption that they're not related. So we want everything to talk to our GL entries table because that is our main table. So the first thing that we want to do is relate our chart of accounts to our GL entries. We're going to do that by our GL account number here and our number here. So there's 2 ways you can do it. You can either right click on it or you can just drag and drop it. And then this visual will pop up. This is our GL account number to our chart of accounts number. It's a one-to-many relationship. Perfect. That's what we want. Save it out. And then you'll see this line that comes across telling it it's a one-to-many relationship here. That's exactly what we're looking for. One-to-many relationships are the best relationships. That's where we want to be. Now we're going to do the same thing with our date table. Here we're looking for posting date, slide it over. That looks great. hit save, and it should look the exact same. We have a one-to-many relationship there. So this is our simple data model for our income statement. Pretty easy, right? Awesome. So now we're going to hop back over to our visuals, and now we're going to create that matrix visual that we were looking at before. So let's select our matrix, which is this one right in the middle right here. It's probably really small for you, but it's the table that has the blue L on it. So we'll select it and it'll pop up right here. So I'm going to make it really big so we can see what we're working with. Awesome. So now the first thing that we want to do is we want to put our categories, our subcategories, and our numbers so we can build out that hierarchy. So that's going to be in our chart of accounts. We're going to select category, subcategory, and then our number down here. So you're going to see that it looks a little wonky, right? Like our subcategories are across the top, and that's not really what we're looking for. So what we want to do is we want to drag this one to in between our category and subcategory. So now it looks more like a hierarchy, right? I select income. You'll see we have those. I'll select other revenue. And then we have our GL accounts that roll up to those subcategories, and then those subcategories that roll up to those categories. Now you might be thinking, Mackenzie, we're building an income statement. Why does it say assets, liabilities, and equity here? That's a good point. So that's the first thing that we can note that we need to filter out really quick. So one of the really awesome things BC does is it has a column in your chart of accounts table called income balance. So it looks like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag that income balance column over to our filters pane here and add it right in. And now it doesn't show up here exactly like we want, but we want to filter by it. And we only want to filter by our income statement numbers. So we're just going to select income statement. Boom, you're going to notice that our equity, liabilities, those all went away. And now we're only showing our income statement categories, which is exactly what we want. I do want to point out, you can see how our subcategories have some blanks in them. That's fine. That's just going to let you know, hey, in your data, you have some GL account numbers that don't have a subcategory, but they do roll up to the income amount. Once we get some numbers in there, you'll see that this kind of goes away. All right, so let me close this up. Perfect. So now we have our hierarchy built, and now we want to get our amounts in there. So we're going to close this. We're going to go to our GL entries, and we're going to click into our table, and we're going to select this amount, right? Awesome. It puts those numbers in there. You'll notice that our blanks are gone. That looks great. But if we look at these numbers a little closely, we'll notice that our income is negative and our cost of goods sold and our expense are positive. That's not really what we want. We kind of want to flip them. This happens sometimes in Business Central. Or in Power BI from Business Central, just because Business Central has the built-in ability to understand when something goes in as an expense that it should be subtracted versus when it comes in as income, it should be positive. Power BI sometimes flips those because the connection doesn't really read one-to-one there. Not a big deal, a super easy fix, right? We just got to pay attention to it. So all we're going to do is create a super simple measure. So we are going to go into our GL entries. We're going to right click and we're going to hit new measure. And we're going to call this adjusted. Whoops, let's make this a lot bigger so you can see it. There we go. So we're going to make this adjusted amount. And that is going to be, to build this, we're going to calculate. That just means that we're building a measure. And we're going to do the sum because we're going to add here. And we want our GL entries amount. So this is the column, or this is the table in the column. And that's what we're going to sum. And then we want to, after we sum those, we want to multiply them by -1. And that should give us the reverse of these. So then it pops up right here, and we'll just throw that in our table as well. And you're going to see it's the exact same numbers, but now our positive and negatives are flipped exactly like we want them. So that looks great. So let's take out our old amount and leave our adjusted amount in there. Perfect. So the next thing that we want to build, if we're looking prior to the other income statement page we were looking at, is we want to build that same period last year measure, right? So let's do the same thing. We're going to right click and we're going to hit new measure. And then we're going to build this measure out. So we're going to name this same period last year. And then this is going to be another calculate, right? Because we're doing a measure. And this time we already have that measure, that other measure, that adjusted amount measure, which is the amount that we want to take and then look at the same amount, but the prior year. So to do that, we're going to put this measure in there. So there it is, adjusted amount. I'm going to put a comma, and now we're going to put our filter on there. So we're going to put same period last year, just like in Excel. It's a formula that's it does all the hard work for us. So we just have to select what we're doing. And now we need to select the year and how the measure and the date are going to relate. And that's going to be on that, ours is called dim date, but whatever your date table is called in that date column. So that looks good. Let's close it out, see if it works. That looks great. So now we'll take our new measure and we'll slide it into the values. Awesome. So we can see that it's reading exactly right, like we're thinking. But you can be looking at this and you're like, wow, what are the odds that the current period and the same period last year are the exact same? You would be, they're probably not, but that's because we don't have any filters on this page to give it something to compare it to. So let's build some filters. So the first thing we want to do is we want to click out of our table and make sure we're not selected on anything but the blank background page. And then the filter option is the third from the bottom all the way to the left. It's a slicer, looks like that. And it comes out huge when you select it. So I'm going to make mine a lot smaller and just put it up here, right? You can select the size and figure out sizing wise what you want to do. But I'm going to make mine about that big. And now we want to go into our dim date table and let's throw fiscal year in there first, right? This is the standard way that filters, once you put numbers in there, look like this, but we're going to change that. So we're going to go into our format visual pane. We're going to hit slicer settings. And then this style, we're going to hit the drop down here and we're going to change it to a drop down. See, that looks way better. So now we have all of our options here. So let's select 2026 and look at this year. See, that looks a lot better. So now we're looking at the current 2026 compared to the last year 2026. But that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference because we have all of our 2025 data. So this is all of the 2025 data versus just January, February, and March of the 2026. So let's make another filter slicer, but now let's put a month. So my favorite way, so we don't have to reformat everything, is I just like to select it, Control C, Control V, and it pops up a new one right here. So we'll put our other one right here, give them some space from one another. And instead of fiscal year, we're going to put in month name. Perfect. So now we have all of our months in just like that. So now let's just select January, right? So we have our 2026 and our January. So this is see these numbers look a lot closer now. So we're comparing in 2026, we have 7.5 million versus 2025, we had 9 million. So the numbers look a lot closer. Perfect. We're just going to keep it 2026 for now, and we're going to continue our build here. So the next thing we want to build in here is our variance, right? So to do that's the easiest measure that we're going to build this whole time. So we'll hit this back to our GL entries where our other measures are. We're going to right click in there. We're going to hit new measure. And now let's make this one call variance, right? And that's just going to be a simple subtraction. You don't even have to add a calculate. You don't have to add a sum, nothing. We're just going to put the two measures in and subtract them from one another. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to do adjusted amount and then minus, open it up again, same period last year, and that is it. So simple. So now you'll see variance pops up here. We'll drag it over here. And you'll see this looks pretty good, right? We're subtracting 18 from 94. That's going to give us 75 and our other subtractions as well. That looks great. Now, it looks a little bit weird because our numbers look good, but I feel like we don't really know what we're looking at. We know what we're looking at because we built it, but when we share this with somebody else, they might not know what they're looking at. So let's give it a title. So if we make sure we're selected in our matrix visual, and we go to our format pane over here, which is the middle visualizations pane, and it's the one with the little paintbrush. We'll select that. We'll go to this general tab, and then we'll open the title. Sometimes this is turned off. You just got to turn it right back on. Very simple. So in this little text pane, we're going to name it income statement. Right? That looks great. Now I want this to stand out a little bit more from the rest of the visual. So I'm going to make this size 13, I'm going to bold it, and then I'm going to flip these. So I want this to match what our totals looks like. So I'm going to make the text color white. I'm going to make the background color this navy blue color. That looks great. All right, and now I'm going to make it a little bit smaller and put it right in the middle of our page. There we go. Perfect, that looks great. Awesome. So now we have a condensed version of that visual that we were looking at before. But now we're going to make those KPI, quick look, quick answer cards that we were looking at before. So to make a card, we are going to select, make sure we're not selected on anything else. And we're going to hit this KPI visual over here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 up from the bottom all the way to the right. We're going to select it. It's probably going to be huge. Yep, there it is. So we're just going to make it a lot smaller. So we'll put this one over here. All right. So we have this one here and we size it out the way we want it. So the first thing that we want to put into our KPI here is we're going to focus on income, right? So we don't have to make any new measures for this one, which is awesome. So we're going to use some filters to get it to say income. So we're going to use the same measure we used for our adjusted amount here. So let me find adjusted amount and I'll put it in the value. And then for our trend axis, we're going to look at the fiscal year. So from our date table, we're going to put that in the trend axis. And then our target, we want to compare where we are this year to where we were last year. So this one, we're going to use our same period last year and throw that into the target. Boom. Right away, you're going to see our title that's already given for us is just telling us we're taking the adjusted amount and the same period last year measure, and we're looking at that by fiscal year. Here's our total. You'll notice that this total matches our total down here. And then our goal is 1.36, which matches our same period last year. But we don't want everything. We just want to look at income. So to do that, we're going to do something very similar to what we did when we filtered this to only be income statement. So we're going to open our chart of accounts again, and we're going to find account category. So this very top one, and we're going to slide it into the filters on this visual pane. And then we're just going to select income and look what it does. It gives us our 18 million, which is our all of 2026 compared to last year, our 94 million, just like we see in our visual. So this looks great. The other thing we noticed right away is that the 18 is red because that's saying, hey, you're only at 18 and last year we got 94, so we got to pick it up. We can filter this back into January. Same thing, you'll notice this changes. So now this is at 7.5, just like it is here, versus our 9.2, just like it is there. It's still red, so it's letting us know, hey, you're 16.11% behind from last year. We know that right away. I don't really like the way this title is though. That's a lot. That's not really going to give us really what that is. So let's change the title. So now we're going to do the same thing. Make sure our visual is selected, go to our little paintbrush. We're going to go to general again, title. And now I'm just going to select there, hit Control A, delete all that. And I'm just going to make this income, just like that. And now I'm going to make it pretty again. I'm going to make it size 13. I'm going to bold it. My text color is going to be white. My background color is going to be that navy blue color. Boom, that already looks so much better. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our year-to-date KPI, right? So we can compare where we're at, not just in this period or this month, but we're going to look at where we are overall this year all the time. So just like we did with our visuals, I'm going to select it, Control C, Control V, and then I'm going to pop this one over here. And then you can just, if you slowly drag, it'll line it up for you exactly where we want it. So we can tell that these two are in line. Perfect. So now we have all of our formatting done, so we don't have to redo our format. And now I'm going to just select in here. This one we do have to make some measures for because we're doing year to date. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to build this year to date amount. And it's a little bit of a longer measure, but it is not complicated at all, I promise. So I'm just going to copy and paste it in and explain it. So go back into GL entries, new measure, and we'll paste this down. All right, so we're going to do our year-to-date amount, and we're going to calculate because we're building that measure. The name of our measure that we used is our adjusted amount. And now we're going to filter it by the max date of the fiscal year selected on the page. So in our case, it's always going to take in the whole year, not just the months selected. It's the max of that fiscal year. And we're going to do that from our date table and take the max date from that fiscal year. So we're going to hit OK. It's going to build that measure for us right there. And now I'm going to take out our adjusted amount and our same period last year because we don't want either of those, right? This is going to be year to date. but I am going to leave the fiscal year in here because that stays the same. So I'm going to take our new year-to-date amount, drop it up here, 7.5, that looks good. And then I'm going to take in our, oh, we got to make a same period last year to date, right? So it's going to be very similar to the measure we just made. The only difference is it's going to be based off of this same period last year measure instead of our adjusted amounts. So right click onto GL entries, new measure, paste my measure in here. And now we're taking same thing. We're calculating same period last year measure, taking the max of the fiscal year and the max of the date table. Perfect. We're going to say, yep, that's what we're looking for. All right, there we go. It loaded in. And you'll see is right here, year to date, same period last year amount, right? And now let's slide it into the target. That looks great. And now let's double check, right? So now we have all of our fiscal year 2026. So these are going to look the same, right? And now we want to make sure that this one is only taking in year to date and not just filtering based on the month. So let's filter it to March and see what happens. So our one over here changes to 7.2 or 2.76, just like we have over here, versus our year to date is still that 18.8, which is awesome. That's exactly what we want. The only thing we want to do is we don't want these to be named the same, right? So let's rename this one. So we're going to select it, go over to our visualizations pane, format it on our paintbrush, general, title, and I'm just going to add year to date at the beginning and select it. Awesome. So let's just take a look at what we built. So now we have a very simple, very clean income statement. We have all of our categories, our subcategories, all the way down to our GL account numbers and their associated amounts. We were able to use some measures to build some income amounts. We were changing the signs on our data. We found the variance. We were comparing this year to last year, or this year to this month last year. And then we were able to create some really big KPIs to give us direct answers really quickly on where we're at, instead of having to look all the way through the visual. We know right away that where we are this year is not where we were last year. And we know we have to work a little bit harder, even month by month. So we know in this month, we're only at 2.7 versus this month last year, we were at 8.66. Right? So this is a way we can build KPIs really quick, give us high-level insights, and build something that might seem a little bit complex, but using really simple measures and really simple data modeling to get exactly what we're trying to get. I really hope this was super simple for you guys and you enjoyed it. Thank you for joining our session today. We're super excited to have you, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.